Forgive me. My name is Scott Ellement, like Jay mentioned. I'm a certified financial planner with Ellement Consulting Group. I'm here with my colleague Dave Small, who's the consultant for the EIO pension plan. So, any difficult questions over there? Simple questions to me. On the agenda is just general retirement planning with a focus on obviously the sponsor program. Trying to make sure of the accuracy of all the information in the presentation. But if there is a discrepancy with anything in here, this disclaimer, the plan text, trust fund, and applicable legislation will apply. I'm going to start with a short video. Most of you know about Ellement. We came on maybe two and a half years ago, but it's a little bit short video on.
Hi, I am Dennis Ellement.
I am Brandon Ellement.
I am Scott Ellement.
And we are the Ellements.
Since 1996, we've been a private, independent firm offering expert pension and benefit services to plan members throughout Canada. With offices strategically located in Winnipeg, Vancouver, Edmonton, Toronto, and Ottawa, we ensure our clients receive exceptional service and support, no matter where they are. Ellement manages over $50 billion in assets and is trusted to provide actuarial, consulting, investment, and administrative services for defined benefit and defined contribution pension plans. Our expertise guides complex pension plans, sophisticated investment strategies, and personalized retirement planning to help plan members achieve their retirement goals through tailored advice and planning. At Ellement, we believe in the power of relationships. We work closely with each client to provide customized solutions that align with their goals and values. Over our 25 years of experience, we've grown to serve more than 400 clients across multiple industries. Supported by a dedicated team of over 100 employees, we are committed to making a positive impact in the communities we serve, proudly supporting various community initiatives and charitable organizations. As a family-oriented company, we value and respect our employees and clients, treating them as an integral part of our extended family and community.
So when you think of retirement planning, think of three sources of income. Obviously, your union-sponsored pension plan, which everybody would get an benefit statement. I'm not sure if they've gone out yet, but receive them shortly if you have it. Government-sponsored programs, Canada Pension Plan, Old Age Security. Just show of hands, how many people have accessed their Service Canada account for CPP? Account 5. So after this presentation, any key takeaway, that would be one. Okay. And personal savings. So that would be RRSPs, TFSAs, any other non-registered accounts, perhaps selling your house. So what is the goal? How do you maintain a pre-retirement standard of living into retirement, right? The old rule of thumb used to be 70%, but that was just, an average. It really depends on your personal situation. Just to show of hands, how many people actually budget right now? So not too many. So how can you know if you're going to be comfortable in retirement if you don't have a budget? You won't know, right? You just don't hope by prayer, right? We do have financial planners to assist, but I strongly recommend everybody get a budget now, even if it's on a napkin. But how would you know in retirement? Because retirement, fixed income, generally speaking, right? Maybe you can go back to work, maybe you can't. So awareness. How are you doing right now? So just a little bit about governance. Who are the stakeholders? Okay, participating employers, the board of trustees, Ellement, consultant third-party administrator. You get two regulatory authorities, the Financial Services Regulatory of Ontario and the Canada Revenue Agency. So a lot of words here for duties of the board of administrator or board of trustees. Basically, they are responsible for oversight of everything to do with this program. These guys have a lot of liability on their shoulders too, right? So they don't just take things very lightly. So if they're granting you benefit improvement or not, they have to be very careful, right? Because they're dealing with other people's money. Participating employers, they have to follow the collective bargaining agreement. So big one is the remittance of contributions. So if they don't remit contributions, obviously we have to go after them, right? To pay those contributions. And they have to provide the third-party administrator, aka Ellement, with all the employee data. So we can do our job. A lot of words here about third-party administrator. We process all the retirement, termination, death cases, marriage breakups, anything to do with employee data changes, address changes. Annual benefit statements come from our office. Any pension estimates come from our office. If you want a retirement counseling session, just call us. We will provide that to you. It is part of the deal. So those that are near retirement, please do not hesitate to contact us. Even if you have a financial advisor, no problem. There's no cost to you, which is part of the deal. So the consulting I mentioned, Dave is our main consultant, but we also have actuaries to consult. This is a defined benefit plan. You need an actuary to calculate those liabilities for that promised benefit in the future. We have investment consulting, and we'll see later on, they've done a fantastic job. Membership meetings such as this, individual financial services, that's all part of what we do and part of the package that you have with your EIO pension program. Regulatory authorities. We have the Financial Services Regulatory Authority of Ontario, which is concerned with minimum benefits. And we have the Income Tax Act, or the Canada Revenue Agency, which is concerned with maximum benefits. So we're trying to manage this program sandwiched between a minimum standard and a maximum standard. So there are protections for the members in place here. A lot of words here. I'm going to read a little bit because this came from the actual consultant. But what you should gather from this slide and the next one is plan is in very good financial shape. I do a lot of these seminars, see a lot of different programs. Good news situation here. Very good. This balance sheet is what we call a going concern valuation balance sheet. It is a projection of that the plan would run indefinitely into the future. There's another balance sheet I won't get into called a solvency balance sheet, but that would be concerned if the plan were to wind up, which is not the case. The 130% there, the market valued assets are greater than the calculated liabilities by 130%. Okay, so you want to point out because they've been doing a good job, right? And they've been doing such a good job that there were recent benefit improvements that everybody would be aware of, right? So the accrual rate, effective January 1st, 2024, went from just over 8 cents to 13.5 cents per month per hour worked. Everybody's probably seen that or will see that on their next annual benefit statement. So excellent, great job. And the so it says 63% future accrual, so more than 50% greater in the future. Plus, they also did another thing in 2024 for the period 2011 to 2023. They increased those accruals as well by 40%. So that would be reflected on your annual benefit, probably this last one. So that's a good news story. So many of you probably were concerned, oh, the accrual rate's lower, maybe compared to another trade, but certainly they've made up for it here. So you can thank your board for doing that. Obviously, they're looking at the actual calculations to make sure they're not going to get in trouble, right? But great news story. In addition, pensioners receive an 8% ad hoc cost of living adjustment. So this is a defined benefit plan that has no regular cost of living adjustments. But the trustees, at the discretion and with consultation with their service providers, if deemed allowable, they can do these ad hoc adjustments for cost of living, and they did so this year. Hopefully this is accurate, but this should be based on your current collective bargaining agreement. I'm not going to get into that, but if it isn't, you guys correct me, please. I got this from our administrator. Hopefully. Yeah, you would have access to your collective bargaining agreement. A lot of this information would also be available on the website, the pension benefit booklet. So how does it work? This is just a very easy image on how the trust fund works. You got contributions coming in. In this case, is all employer contributions. You want to be as high as possible, and that's what CPA negotiations. Investment earnings. So you want your investment consultant to do an excellent job. Investment earnings are generally 2 to 3 times more important than the contribution. So a lot of pressure on the investment consultant. They go into the pool of assets, and you want that benefit on the bottom left to be as high as possible, right? Because that's for you. And you want that fees and expenses to be as low as possible. But that's in a nutshell how the trust fund works. Is everybody here enrolled in one? I assume? Yeah, so we can probably skip the slide, but I think you have to enroll right away and you contact your union office to enroll. You should be enrolled. Great program. Okay. Everybody should be familiar with this. This is the annual benefit statement. A lot of words, big things to check here when you get yours. Check the data. Make sure your birth date is correct, first and foremost, because that's how you retire. That's how we do the calculations. Make sure your beneficiary is accurate. So your beneficiary must be your spouse, common law, or married, unless they sign off on it. If you've gone through a division, you need to let us know, because it could get very challenging in the future. You could always say, no, you didn't get divorced or separated with your spouse, but then you'd be committing fraud and the other issues that could. So don't go there. But spouses have rights, so please make sure that information is accurate. And make sure that your hours are recorded correctly. On time, things are not reported correctly to our office, but please let us know. Right? That is your duty. Make sure the data is correct. So what would trigger benefits? Retirement, termination, death, or relationship breakdown. Normal retirement is age 60, unreduced. And you have to give our office at least 30 days. Please give us as much notice as possible. Right? Early retirement, age 55, that's 6% per year penalty prior to age 60. Again, you can get an estimate on your value too, no problem. The last thing here is you can work or accrue a pension up to the age of 71. You can keep working after age 71, which some may choose to do, whether they like to or they have to, but you can no longer accrue pension benefits. So that's an income tax requirement. You have to start a pension by the end of the year, which turn 71. Hopefully most people retire prior to that and don't need to work beyond that, but it does happen. If you retire and want to come back to work, it's also a possibility, because I'm sure the office with a lot of work, we need people. Contact your union office and they'll tell you how that process works. So you'd have to suspend your pension payments. You can continue to accrue, but you'd have to suspend the pension payments if you were to return to work after commencing the pension. Termination.
That would also apply to your international.
That'll also apply to your national pension as well. Those in here. So that was retirement. Okay. Termination. If you terminate prior to age 60 or age 55, or do not want to draw a pension from the trust fund, you may do so, but you have to wait a period of 24 consecutive months without contributions to your pension plan. Okay, that's a rule in place. So you can get the lump sum of your present value of your accumulated pension credits. You can't get that and move it to a locked-in retirement account or directly to a LIF. But you have to wait 24 months.
Why do you have to wait 24 months?
That's a rule in the plan text. I did not make the rule. I am just a pusher. Maybe others can have context. That is not unique to EIO. I've seen it across a lot of multi-employer pension programs.
Because it's a employer plan, periods of layoff. The idea is that you have continuous pension. The idea is that you have the continuous pension for your entire career and change employers, but stay within the trade. So if there's periods of unemployment, purpose is not to be able to just redeem funds from your pensions. It's there to be locked in. You leave the industry for 24 months. That's at that point you're considered terminated and you transfer. Otherwise, you're still.
Last thing, this is a registered pension plan, and as such, funds are what we call locked in. You can't just cash it out. It has to go to a locked-in retirement vehicle. There are ways to unlock it with, up to 50%, filing a Form 5 with FSRA. It's unlike an RSP. A registered retirement savings plan is not locked in. So those with RSPs, you can actually cash out today if you want. It'll be included in your tax return the following year, but you can cash out today. The reason it was government, this is more of a CRA requirement. They wanted to protect individuals, basically from themselves. That's what it is. They don't want you to drain your funds right away, which in some respects is good. Again, there are mechanisms where you can unlock them too. So it's not like, it's stuck there, right? You do have options. And we can assist, or your financial institution, if you move the money somewhere else, can assist them. Hopefully this doesn't apply to anybody, but if you do have shortened life expectancy, you can circumvent that 24 month. Okay, I hope it doesn't apply to anybody. You need a doctor's note, a little bit more medical evidence, but you can. Death benefits. So there's pre-retirement death and post-retirement death. Talk a little bit more about post-retirement death later on in the slideshow. But if you die prior to retirement, the computed value of your pension entitlement can go to your spouse or beneficiary as applicable right away. There's no 24-month waiting period. I think your spouse has 90 days to make an election when that occurs. So there are protections here. Pension assets form part of family property. As such, if you do go through a separation, we need to provide your former spouse with an entitlement. Does it mean that she needs to take that entitlement? You can say, you take the house, I want to keep my pension. That's part of that, but we do need to provide that to legal counsel when it's. So rule number 1 in financial planning, don't get separated. Okay, here's the good stuff. These are options. I'm going to just quick, it's kind of 2 pages. It looks very complicated. I'm going to try to simplify it. Again, this is for retirement, not the community value. If you're single, this is how I approach it. If I'm single, I want to make sure I get at least some of my money if something happens to me if I pass. So I would choose a life guaranteed 15-year option. That means if I die prior to 15 years worth of payments would go to my beneficiary or my estate. If I chose the life option, if I died year 1, that's it. So I don't like it. I'd rather have that insurance protection. And I haven't provided numbers here, but that insurance protection isn't that much. So instead of maybe $100, maybe it's $97. Who cares? I'd rather have that protection. If I'm married, I want the same thing, but joined to a 100% survivor, guaranteed 15 years. I want it for my lifetime, my spouse's lifetime, and in no event at least 15 years worth of pay. So I want my kids. So I would simplify it, not these 10 options, I would do the 2 options. If you're single, not telling you what to do, but I kind of telling you what to do. Do the life 15. If you're married, I would do the joint 100 guaranteed 50. In addition to, you know, for the spouse, it's also, like we had 5 people who put their hand up for budget, right? Imagine if your spouse got pension, $3,000 went to $1,500. You did a J50. I wouldn't do that. Right? Why? So for me, it's not worth it, right? Even if you get slightly lesser pension, that insurance protection, it's still worth it. Sure. Any questions on this one? This is the retirement option section.
A general question. Are you going to share this presentation after the meeting?
They're recording it. So we're going to hang around.
That's 15 years. That's the minimum. You live to be 20. Something like that.
It's for your lifetime, but it's more if you pass before that 15 years. So it's guaranteed for your lifetime, guaranteed if you have a spouse, guaranteed for her lifetime. But it's that 15-year protection is something we're having within that 15 years.
Married couples, join 100-year guaranteed 50.
Yeah, so it'd be for you, your spouse, and if something were to happen within the 15 years, it's those 15 years or the remaining 15 years would go to your beneficiary children, whoever he does. And for me, it's worth the protection. So getting into the different options, I don't even know why they do it. It just complicates things too, right?
Are there any other questions on that?
Sorry, Scott, can you just, again, for the options that should be chosen here, can you just state them again super clearly so that when we all watch this recording, we know what we're supposed to do?
Okay, so what I'm talking about, if you're single, A3, like a village building, A3. That's if you're single. Okay, you want to at least get 15 years worth of payments, right? You may not have a spouse, but maybe you have your favorite nephew or something, right? Or charity, you can do that as well. The joint is, I think it's E. So joint life with no reduction. So if you have $3,000 a month in pension, something happens to you, continues on to your spouse, but you have that 15-year protection. So if she lives to 100, she gets it. If she passes at year 13, still 2 years worth of payments. I would just simplify that. Don't worry about the joint 60 or 5-year guarantees. Bring us on.
Scott, just correct me if I'm wrong here. At the end of that 15-year term, you are still paying your pension for the remainder of your life.
It is still for your life. It's more, you know, death before that 15 years. Again, it's think of it as insurance. You want to collect, you put it into this pension, right? You want to make sure you get it, or at least your beneficiaries. Very different from Canada Pension Fund. I'll just speak very briefly here. I won't get into the details, so don't worry about this too much. But everybody here should go to the Service Canada website and see what they have accrued. Very similar. It's a defined benefit plan. Slightly different benefits in there. Okay? There's some less protections. Before 2019, the government was trying to replace 25% of your year's maximum pensionable earnings, which ended up being like 71,000 something like that in 2025, right? Because they saw a lot of individuals. You are fortunate, you have a defined benefit plan, let alone a pension plan, but a lot of people don't, right? So this was kind of a minimum protection for citizens across the country, right? So they deduct, you still get deductions off your paycheck, RGT. In 2019, there started a phased-in approach to try to enhance Canada Pension Plan. It's actually made it more complicated. Again, all this information is on the Service Canada website. But the big thing to know is, what have you accrued? You see the deductions coming off your check. You don't see them coming off the employer's check. The employer's matching as well, right? But you've seen it kind of gradually going up. In 2017, it was 4.95%. Now it's 5.95%. Cost of groceries are going up. The current maximum CP pension is just over $1,400. Most people don't get there. There's so many years you have to accrue for your working career. It's many years. The average is just under 800. So very different. But you have to go to the Service Canada website. I can't tell you. They used to mail out statements, but they stopped doing that a number of years ago. So the only way to actually know what you do have is to go to the website, and you have to actually apply on it too. And there's some calculators to tell you what you do have. That is the website. Okay, the common question is, when should I start my Canada pension? Most people that I deal with tend to start at age 60, even though there's a 36% reduction. Reason, they can invest that money elsewhere. In many cases, they actually need the money. And the crossover point, without taking time value of money into account here, is about age 73, 74. So starting your pension at age 60, as opposed to starting at age 65, you'd have to live almost 15 years to get that crossover point. Again, not taking into account time value of money. So even if you didn't need the money, say you take it at 60 or 62, you could always invest it in, say, a tax-free savings account. Get some juice out of it. How healthy are you going to be in your mid-70s too? I think to take, right? Can you send money? The other government benefit is old age security. So this comes out of the general tax revenues. We all pay into it. Currently at $727. If you have an income of less than $90,997, you get that full benefit. Okay, and I believe it increases every quarter with cost of living. If you make more than 90,000 and change, there is a clawback for old age security. If you're making more than that, that's a good news. You want a clawback because you want to be getting more in retirement. But there's a clawback to be aware of. It's officially clawback at just under 150,000. So if you make more than 148 and change here, and again, this threshold keeps escalating every year, you would get old age security. Most people will get some form of old age security, but there will be clawback too. If you make more than $90,000. Again, that number keeps increasing every year. So personal savings. Most people are familiar with registered retirement savings plan. Because you participate in a defined benefit plan, your RSP room is reduced. You get that pension adjustment, box 52. You probably wonder what the heck that was. That's to reduce your unused RSP room, right? Because you participate in a registered pension plan, which is good. I'd rather have the defined benefit. But for RSPs, contributions are tax deductible. So when you file your income tax return, maybe you get a little bit off your paycheck, you get reduced taxes. Tax-free savings account, no tax deduction going. In an RSP account, funds grow tax deferred. In a tax-free savings account, funds grow tax-free. When you withdraw from an RSP or you convert it to a payment vehicle like a registered retirement income fund, that's where you get taxed. Not the case with the TFSA. Anything you take from a tax-free savings account is yours, no tax on it. Not only that, you don't have to report on your income tax return. So it's not included in income. It's actually fantastic. Late Jim, they're excellent. RSPs, when you withdraw from an RSP, funds cannot be replaced. The tax-free savings account withdrawals can be replaced the following year. You just don't replace them the same year unless you have that money available to you. So, how many people actually have a tax-free savings account? Okay. So if you start your CPP early, you know, if you don't need the money, you can always put it in there. Here's the cumulative limit of TFSAs right now, just over 100 or 102,000. They were introduced in 2009. If you're able to do it just regularly, whether it's off your paycheck, I strongly encourage you to do so. It's a great account. Use it as like just a regular savings account too, right? It isn't perfect. It's better to do that than to have a non-registered.
What does that mean that the RSP had said that the withdrawals cannot be replaced?
Yeah, so you have so much RSP, right? You get every year income, right? You get a new RSP limit. You get your pension adjustment to reduce that RSP limit. And then whatever you have, you can use. But once you take it out, you can't replace unless you get new room the following year. But if I had 100,000 in my tax-free savings account, I withdrew it. I could actually replace the $100,000 the following year. Does that make sense?
Just one clarity there. There are programs like first-time home buyers where you take a loan from your RSP and you have to pay it back, but that's, you don't create additional room. You're just borrowing from your RSP in that sense. As Scott said, if you take out RSP money just and spend it, you can't put it back. It doesn't create any room. Your contribution goes away forever. Exactly. TFSA, and then like if you invested $1,000 in your TFSA and put $5,000 out, you can put $5,000. It's not the original $1,000. It's what we took the market value and take it out. It's reopens the following year.
There's also a lifelong learning plan too. You can actually borrow against your RSPs and first-time home buyers. So that's good.
Thank you.
Other personal assets include your house, your condo, non-registered accounts, maybe a cottage. Are you going to downsize in retirement? Are you going to sell property? You got to live somewhere. Are you going to rent? How can you convert those assets into income too? That's something that you should start to think about. Again, we got to live somewhere, but if you can use part of those assets for income when needed, then you should start. I asked before how many people actually budgeted. I had 5 hands that went up. So please start that process now. Even if it's napkin math, it's better than nothing. But how else would your financial advisor or me or anyone on my team or anyone for that matter, or yourself, know if you can afford to retire if you don't have the information? You think you spend $500 on groceries, maybe you spend $900. I don't know. Groceries going up, right? What will your expenses be in retirement? How will they change? Are they going to be the same? Do you have dependent children living in your basement? I had a neighbor I just found out bought their daughter a house. She went through a very difficult situation in her personal life, and that set that back. So there are things like that that occur, right? That's an unusual circumstance, but knowing what you do have right now and what to expect, like do you need to buy more tools or less tools? Do you need to spend as much gas in retirement? All these things. The other thing is, do you have a contingency plan? If like a fallback, or are you just scraping by? So again, should you retire? Sometimes you want to retire, but can you retire? How is your health? This is a sample budget, not the best template, but big things to focus on here are mortgage payments or rent. Hopefully, Everyone who's about to retire has little or no debt. Even if it's mortgage debt, it's better to have none at all. A little bit is okay. But again, that's just eating away your retirement income. The other one is transportation. Cars are bloody expensive, the black holes of money. If you can get down to one vehicle, or if you have three, can you go down to two? Right? I like fishing. I like fishing too. JD likes fishing, so I like fishing. Fuel costs, right? Going out to expeditions, expensive. Are you going to travel? Like, you don't want to just live like a hermit though too. You got to do something, right? So again, there's pre-retirement budgeting, post-retirement budgeting. Are your children, if you have children out of the house, are you planning to have a wedding? Are you planning to travel? All these things. And please, if you have any credit card debt, make sure you have no credit. Even before retirement, okay? If you remember anything in this presentation, this is the slide. 3 sources of income, your union sponsored program, defined benefit, the only thing you can control is the number of hours you work. And obviously just make sure the data is correct, but you got a great program right now, defined benefit. You will have the option of actually drawing from the pension or taking that commuted value. I like myself the defined benefit because it's something I don't have to manage, it's being managed for me. Okay, you have other things to manage outside your life. I'd rather have one less thing to manage, right? Guarantee is only good as a guarantor, so as long as you believe that the trust fund is going to be around, I'd rather have that off my plate. Okay, similar to Canada Pension Fund, it's a defined benefit as well, old age security. And then you got your TFSA group, you got your RSPs, right? That's your flexibility. That's what I would use for my.
How do you determine commute value?
They're prescribed actual assumptions, interest, probability of expected payment. So that depends on if you have a spouse, how long we expect to pay out that benefit. They're prescribed by the legislation. Right? It's not like we just come up with the stringent calculations. But if you want to take the CV, it is available to you. So 24 months.
So just for clarity, commuted value of the lump sum is basically how much money do you need today to give you an equivalent benefit at the time of your normal retirement age 60. So if you're younger, that amount's typically smaller. It's got more time to grow if you're going to take it out of the plan, invest in yourself. But it will give you the equivalent value when you're 60. So if you're the older you are and the less time horizon you have for retirement, the amount is typically larger. But it's not an exact science. It's not that it's prescribed amount, there's a formula that's done, but it's an estimate of what you need today to purchase that same pension at age 60. One thing to note, a lot of people want to know what that commuted value is at any one time. It's not really worth anything unless you're ready to terminate after that 2-year period and transfer that out, because you can't use it as collateral, against property or anything like that. You can't use your pension for as collateral for anything or assign it to anybody. So it's like, what's my house worth? It doesn't mean it's not worth anything until you sell it. That's essentially the same analogy. So it's really, you can use it for planning purposes, but if you're planning to retire, the value you're terminating.
So let's say you decide to retire at 65, and you decide to pull it, you have to wait 3 years. As a number, if your contributions are $300,000, the commuted value at 67 should, I guess, this would reflect on the return rate over the years, or do there's a special formula to apply? A lot of the rumors I've heard over sites over the years is that you're not entitled to the interest that you've accrued if you're going to pull the money out of the plan.
That's correct. So because it's defined benefit, not defined contribution, it's based on a formula. So the benefit you earn is based on that accrual rate, so many cents per hour, that generates a pension, a monthly pension at retirement. So it's not a function of contributions plus interest. That would be a defined contribution plan or your RSP. That's not what this plan is. This plan is a defined benefit. So it's based on a formula. It's not based on.
So educated guess, would it be more than the contributions or just the contributions?
It depends. So if you're younger,
It's 65. 65.
yeah, again, because it's a moving target. It's not. It's based on a point in time, and with what is needed today to buy that same benefit 10, 15, 20 years down the road. So there's a lot of different calculations, factors. There's a number of different factors that go in. So it does take into account how long, some estimates on how long you're going to live, if you're male, you're female, the demographic information. So it's not as simple as just saying contributions plus the interest rate is equal to X. There are other factors that go in. So it's typically, it historically was based on bond rates, which fluctuate from month to month. It can be even more complicated. The rules have changed recently, that it's based on what's called the going concern rate of the plan, which is 6.25%, if I'm not mistaken. So essentially you work backwards at 6.5% at the time of retirement. Normal retirement back to today, and you discount it by 6.5%. Again, there's no other factors. That's basically what
In the past, before the change to the going concern assumptions, a lot of people were taking CVs out at very low bond yields. In 2000s, even early 2010s, bonds, interest rates were low. Think of it just like a mortgage, right? You were able to get a large mortgage with low interest rates. It's the same thing with these CVs going out the door, right? And a lot of pension programs were suffering, and it took government a long time to recognize or change legislation. Keep in mind, this is a retirement plan. This is not I'm going to take my cash out. Right? That was the intent. We do have some programs, not the case here, that don't even let you take a CV out because they recognize, hey, this is a retirement plan. Not the case here, but if I had my choice in my magic wand, I would just make it have to. We have rules in place for different circumstances.
Here, when we're told that the return rate approximately is for our investments, that doesn't really mean anything.
No, you don't have to worry about it too when you're drawing a pension, right?
I have a financial advisor, have other investments, and my return rates have been good. And part of my reasoning is maybe I will put all of my eggs in one basket by seeing higher returns. But so let's just say you get 12% for 1 year. Each year, you know, like I have one for you guys, and I know what my contributions have been since 2004, I believe. I'm not saying this right, but it's.
You think you could do better outside? Is what you're saying.
Yeah.
And maybe you're right.
I'm not going to pull
The advantage of the defined benefit plan is you don't have to worry about that type of thing. So, if you have all of a sudden you're expected to retire, you've got it circled on your calendar for next year, and then the market's dropped 30, 40%, you've lost everything, not everything, you've lost essentially half the value of your pension that you had planned for to retire. This you don't have to worry about. The trustees have to worry about it. And that's why you have that going concern surplus that exists, is that when interest rates change, when markets go negative or sideways, it doesn't impact you as individual. You can still, on your 60th birthday, take your retirement, and it doesn't matter what's going on around necessarily. You don't have to worry about it. And that's the advantage. That's why I think we're promoting here, is what we're saying is you need those other savings. You need your RSP, you need your TFSA. If you get 12% a year and for the next 20 years, that's amazing. But I can't say that everyone in this room is going to be able to do the same thing or say the same thing. This is designed to be, as I said, it's a brotherhood. You're sharing in the benefits together, and that's the way the plan's designed. So some people could do better. There's no doubt, but there's other people that haven't even thought about it, and that's why they're here. Maybe is they haven't done any other savings or anything. This is what they care about. It's most important to them. So that's the job of the trustees, to ensure that there's a benefit to everybody, and it's
Are there any fluctuations in the price of the payments that we receive from the card, depending on how the market is doing? Because I think there was like
that's right. Yeah, no. So nothing changes when you retire. So when you choose your retirement option, basically you'll receive that for life. And what the trustees can do from time to time, if inflation's higher and there's enough surplus in the plan, in that case they get 8% raise across the board to everybody who's retired, everybody who had a pension. Some of those pensioners who were working in that period between 2011 and 2023 also received increases in the calculation of their benefits, so retroactively went back and increased those pensions. It could potentially go up, but I'll be very careful. No, it doesn't go down, but it can go down. So because this is a SOMAP plan, a specified multi-employer pension plan, there's no solvency fund, meaning that Scott alluded to it earlier. There's two calculations that are done. One is going concerning the pension's going to go on forever, and we're funded it up close to 130%. You also are required in an individual or a single employer plan to do what's called a solvency valuation. If you wind up today, is there enough money in there to pay everybody out? Essentially, their community value. Is there enough money in the plan? And that's not required under a multi-employer plan because you have a collective agreement that says the employer is going to pay $11 an hour towards your pension. That's it. So if the trustees screw up and it goes in the negative, they can't go back to the employers and ask for more money. So in that case, you could reduce benefits if it means the detriment to the entire. But as you said, it's very well funded, and that's the it's about. We got a little bit more. It's based the rainy day or based the market stuff. The key with pension plans is that the liabilities, people hate the term liabilities. We sound like we're liabilities. We're on the negative. It shouldn't be negative, but that's what's owed to you. And the biggest determinant of those liabilities is interest rates. So typically, what happens is that if interest rates were to drop, the value of everybody's pension goes up by 20%. I think it's 18%. So it's a huge fluctuation. So the bank, every time it cuts rates, those liabilities end up going up. And so that's why they have to keep that buffer there. So the likelihood now are further cuts to interest rates, but the Cheeto man down south is causing a lot of concerns, and so there's a lot of reluctancy because if we go into recession and they need to, if there's a lot of economic uncertainty, that's why we have to keep this buffer in there just so that we never have to.
What are the thoughts just on financial advisor? I don't know how aggressive or not you are right now, but as you age and into retirement, you're likely to be less aggressive. Return is likely to lower another factor. Some go aggressive all the way, which is very unusual, but well, high risk, high return, right? But can you afford to sleep all of it? Can you make your payments, right? Maybe it's part of it. Maybe this is, hedging your bets. Or I believe in my guy, full tilt. That's fine too. You have the option. And returns have been easier to make in the last 10 to 15 years too. There's been very small, little volatility, seeing a little bit right now with geopolitical risks. But it's been easier to make a return. But we did have the 08-09 recession. So guess what? What goes up will come down and will go up, but there is volatility. We're here to help with options. So anytime if you're not sure, I didn't understand the option E3 or E12 or whatever it was, or if you want help with budgeting, we do have financial advisors on staff for appointment. It is part of the deal. If you have your own person, that's fine too. Just to make sure everybody's aware, we are here for the membership, right? That's just part of the deal that has been arranged with the board of trustees. So why not take advantage? Anyway, of all the things, the actual union sponsored program is the easiest thing. Actually, it's the other stuff that probably is most challenging, right? As long as you start thinking about it, hopefully not too late. Enjoy.
Hi, everybody. I'm just going to speak for a second about some things that just pop up. It's nice to see everybody here. I recognize most faces, and I think I work with about 85% of the people in this room at one time or another. Just a couple of things that I've noticed over the years in the office is when people do retire at age 60, there's still they still need to keep paying their union dues until age 62. And then at age 62, then they're eligible to take an international. Sometimes what I've seen over the years is you have an employee that's been with a contractor for a long time and has never really had to worry about paying his own union dues out of pocket. So it's and I've seen this where a person who's retired at age 60 and then fallen in arrears, and you have to phone them and say, hey, you need to pay your own union dues, and then they what? But, they forget all about it. So it's just a reminder to if you retire at age 60 to continue to pay your dues until at least age 62, where you can take your international pension if you're 20 years vested. And you just call Heather here at the office. You bring in a book and get it set up. And then at that time, you won't have to pay any more union dues, and you'll get a small pension from Washington that is tax. Okay, it's not a lot of money, but at least from that day forward, you don't have to pay any more union dues. Okay. Yes.
So at 62, you're allowed to take your international. Yes. That means that when you take your international, you're not allowed to come back to work.
Good segue. That's just, I was just about to get into that. That was my next point is what I have seen over the years, and I think it works really, really well for us in our industry, because we're out there working every day and we're thinking about retirement. We don't know if we can afford to retire, and we don't know if what we're going to do when we retire or have enough time. So what I've seen more so back in 2015, 16, where members would stop would take their Ellement pension, at the time the Coughlin's pension, and they would maybe go to Florida for the winter, right? They would take that, they would continue to pay their union dues. They would do that and go to Florida for the winter. In the springtime, the summer, when they come back, they would stop their pension. I would get notification that they'd stop their pension. They go back onto the workforce. They'd work for the summer. Okay, they would contribute back into their pension plan at that time. Okay, and then the winter they would maybe go back to Florida. One gentleman in particular that I remember so well is first year he took out 3 months. The next year he took out 4 months. The next year he took out 5 months, and I've never seen him again. He just slowly went into retirement, and that's what you guys have such an advantage to do. Okay, now. Same thing goes with your international pension. If you reach 62 and you've drawn your Ellement pension and your international pension, you can still go to Florida for the winter. Come back in the spring, stop both your pensions, and you can go back on the out of work list. Yes, you can stop both your pensions, go back on the out of work. Okay?
Not that I'm going to do that.
And there's no waiting period when you go back. No.
There's only that initial period.
That's the withdrawal.
Yeah.
Oh, that's linked to lump sum.
Yeah, but if you're on the pension plan, if you can contact them and say, stop it, I'll get an email, so-and-so will stop their pension, and then, I'll put you back on the out of work list, right? And then you can start bidding for jobs.
So that's if you're taking payments from the plan.
Yes.
And that would start at 6.
Yes.
Yeah, no waiting time.
But if you've gone that 2 years, you basically declared you're out of game.
That's right. And then you're eligible to claim the lump sum.
Yes, but not eligible.
Okay.
If you declared you're out.
I have a question about your benefits. You have that excess money that's been sitting monthly and accumulated over the years. And when you retire, that amount that you have that's been sitting there, that can go toward your monthly payments of your benefits, correct?
We're only supposed to be talking pension today, but Patty, I will not interfere with you and your question here. Just as a reminder, but yes, 100%. And that's the advantage of keeping that money in that account. I know we used to get that money back in cash, but it is a real advantage that we all have in this room. And I know people sort of take ownership of the dollar value they have there, but what you're hitting on is a very important thing, that you will be able to contribute that excess money after you've retired to continue to get your full health care that you've had as a member. It's a really positive thing that we have that a lot of other plans don't have. But because we attach a dollar value to it, we are sort of all stuck in this mentality that it's our money. But the reality is what it actually is continued health care for you and your family as you continue to age and retire.
Not life insurance, that's your health.
It does, there is a small life insurance that yeah,
It's not what it was.
yeah, exactly, yeah, it decreases at age 65 and then. Yeah, the only one that really just stopped altogether would be disability, because obviously you're retired, but health, dental, insurance, still part of that.
And just to follow on to that is continued to be through Ellen, right, through the same process.
Yeah, exactly.
But you could, like, because once you take down my IO, I can't go back to work. I can work, but I can't be electrical, right?
No, it's the exact same. Right, so you declare that you're putting on.
No, like I'm saying, if I keep drawing from my IO, it says here I can't do any electrical work, but I can work somewhere else. Okay.
That yearly pension statement that we get, does that 62, the IO, is that involved, calculated in that statement? Oh, okay. So that's just our element, and then the other one at 62 from the international.
If you call the office, we can log on and we can get an idea of how much.
Can we not have that put onto our yearly statement that would show, or at least advise the membership that not to forget about the international one?
Maybe it's something at that time of year we can include our own mail it. Yeah. Just to temper everyone's expectations, it is not a high monthly pay. Around the $200 mark.
Oh, it is, okay. Oh, copy.
You're putting roughly $200 a month for the pension account, like, it's for your dues, right? So just put that in perspective at $24 a month.
So say you decide to retire early for your pension, is there an easy way to figure out what that would be? 6% reduction per year, but that number will be different if you retire at 650.
There would be, so the amount that is quoted is always at age 60, and then it could go up higher than that if you choose to defer it. But it's not necessarily a function of interest or anything. The reduction before age 60 is just taking into account that you're taking payments out of the plan prior to that. But it's not the same as CDB in that
increases by a fixed amount of percentage every year that you defer it. But as you contribute to the plan, then the amount goes up. But if you leave it, it pretty well stays the same.
Maybe back to commuted value for a minute. If you do decide to take that lump sum, what is the tax, what are you taxed on?
So you wouldn't be taxed on the initial transfer if it goes into another registered vehicle. So typically that would be a locked-in RSP or a LIRA. But that is dependent upon having the room to transfer into that. And so any excess amount above the room that you have is taxable, and it's typically at the highest rate on a lump sum. So if you transfer into a there's typically an amount that can be over and above the allowable amount, the transfer amount, that you can shelter on sort of on a one-time basis. But it's once it's in there, if it gets transferred from one locked-in vehicle to another, then there's no taxes in that. It's only as you withdraw.
So just to make sure I understood there, let's say you started with your plan at 60, you got full pension, so you keep getting the same payment measure, we'll say, until you pass regardless.
Yes.
And then the 15-year insurance that you were talking about earlier, that 15-year is to make sure that say you pass before 15 years, that your spouse will be getting full payments until that 15 years elapses. And then she'll be receiving a reduced amount. Is that correct?
Well, it depends on the option that you choose. So Scott's risk averse, so he's saying take the most insured, which would be highest guarantee and with 100% survival benefit. In Ontario, the minimum standard is 2/3 benefit. So it would reduce by 2/3 for your spouse. What that means is that the pension you receive at age 60, that payment is going to be higher because you have less insurance on it, as Scott's using the terminology. So the more insurance you layer on top of this, the more guarantee and the higher the death benefit that's payable, your payment comes down to reflect that. So the 15-year guarantee would be if you had a joint last survivor 100%, doesn't matter how old, at any point when you die, your spouse will get the exact same payment. Where the 15-year guarantee comes in is if you both die, then there's money payable for the remaining payments to children that stay or whatever the case may be. But it's only there if you were to die within that period. If you live to 110, you'll get a pension to your 110.
Let's say you live till you pass at 80.
Yeah.
Does your wife still get the same payments that you had?
If you choose the joint last survivor 100%.
Yeah. Okay.
If you chose a 75 or 60, 62/3, that's what it would be.
And we'll change our payments. So the 15 years is for both of you. That's within 15 years that some of the money goes.
Yeah. And on the reverse side of it, if you had to say a joint last survivor 62/3, if you're the member and your spouse dies, nothing happens to your pension. It's only if you were to die first, then your spouse's pension will be reduced. Yours will never change as long as you're alive and always at that point.
Okay, but the general rule is that the spouse to keep about 2/3 of payments with spouse.
So by law, that's what it is, unless they waive their rights to the pension. And that may be the case is if your spouse works for the government and she's got a good pension and you've got a good pension, you say, well, if you were to go, I'm okay with mine and vice versa, then you can waive your rights to their survivor pension, they will waive their rights to your pension, then you get a higher payment amount. But as I said, the more layers you put on, the more insurance you're buying essentially to guarantee if something happens, which it will happen, there's more money available out there. At the risk of asking a leading question, is there some sort of website or portal that already exists where we could get an estimate in each one of those options maybe today?
There is a portal, but I don't think you can, I have to see it. I don't know that it gives you every option necessarily available. It would just be the normal form of pension. I don't know. I see
It does show several options.
It does give you, yeah.
And everybody's aware of that portal we're referring to?
No. So if you go to eiobenefits.ca, so that's the website for the pension and the benefits. And there's general information on there about the plan and what it covers, but there's also a portal that you can log into. And I think there's 3 bits of information that it asks for, but it asks for date of birth, your birth date, and there's 3 bits of information that you should have. And from that, you can log into the portal and you'll be able to see your contributions coming in. So instead of, waiting on your monthly statement that shows you the hours that came in from your employer, as soon as we receive it and it's key to your account, you'll be able to see it on there. And it also gives you the pension contributions.
How does unemployment? What decide to take your pension? What happens?
It won't, I can't speak for EI, but receiving EI won't impact your pension. No. And collecting CPP, OAS, none of that reduces your pension. There's no offset from that standpoint, but I can't say what EI would do if you're receiving pension.
I have a question about the cost of living adjustment. Was it ever in the pension at some point?
It was. There was a indexation, which is a permanent form, but because inflation was so low for many years, it never got triggered, and there was a cost associated with it. So the actuaries would place cost on that, having that liability, or to the liabilities would cost that on there. So the trustees made the decision to remove it with the flexibility that if inflation, like it did last year, 2 years ago, skyrockets, then they can increase the pensions as they choose without having to lock that in as far as liability. So it was removed. I want to say 2013. I don't know the exact year, but I think it was around 2013. But when you have the formula wasn't a direct, 100% CPI. It was a formula based on CPI. So when inflation was 1 or 2%, it really didn't trigger any.
So Element themselves have the actuaries in their employment. And so we've been doing a lot more actuarial reviews every other year, every third year moving forward, which will give us a clearer view to be able to do these ad hoc adjustments a little bit more regularly. That way it prevents us from keeping that money in the reserve. It lets us use that money for the membership themselves. So the ad hoc is sort of where we've been leading as far as our trustee group is concerned to help with cost of living.
Yeah, because that's a big, element to a pension for the next 30 years. If you don't have that COLA, your pension might not cover your expenses. It's important that that's looked on.
Right.
On the, Tim, EI, when you get an amount monthly, anything you make over that amount is deducted from the monthly amount from unemployment insurance. I already looked into that, so what most people do, they wait, they go in EI, they wait through the whole maximum, and then they start the pay.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I got another question. When you're retired and you go, you're on a pension, go away, and then you come back to work, your pension stops. Is this an Ottawa thing? Because I work for 353 members, Toronto local. They said they've never heard of that. Is this only an Ottawa thing, or is it?
No, that's an income tax thing.
Pardon me?
That's an income tax thing. You can't contribute
and collect from the same pension at the same time.
We're the ones that allow people to come back. Where it's an individual role.
Or from rehiring.
Yeah. I know in Kitchener, they say, once you take this, you can never come back. And they have the retirees go working on you. Let's keep the knowledge in this within our organization.
I just wanted to clarify about the beneficiary. So your pension, if ever I pass, would automatically go to my spouse, common law, whatnot. And then, but like in my case, I have him as my beneficiary. So I guess I should put somebody else's name, right? Because or else if he passes, then it would just stop.
Yeah,
So-
it doesn't just, so what you can do is, yes, you could name a different beneficiary, but you would name your spouse, and then you would have a separate beneficiary. In the event, something would happen to both of you. Yeah, then that would be, but you can also have contingent beneficiaries, so you could have somebody in the, whatever reason that person predeceased you before you make a change, then it's the backup that would be the one that receives it. Really, why it's important to have a beneficiary is that that money goes to them without having to go through probate or through any through your estate, where there's other taxes that could be withheld from it. That's not to say when they receive it, they're not being taxed on it necessarily, but it's your choice. It's not going into a pool and covering off your debts and everything else before it goes to the person you wanted to. That pension money goes directly to whoever you named. Nobody else can. Government.
And I can contact Ellement, I guess.
Yeah, we have forms, like even if you went on the website there and the enrollment form, even though it's not a moment, you can, but if you want to come into the office and you don't have a printer or whatever else, yeah, you're welcome to come in and fill out the form. I believe
Same so. Yep. Any more questions, folks?
Yeah, so the current early retirement is 60. Is it possible, or I don't know how doable, is it possible to have that age lowered and still have full pension? There's a cost to it, not to you, like to the plan, there's a cost to it. In Ontario, the earliest possible is 50. So, is it possible? Yes. Is it doable? Not really, but it is possible.
Yeah, the plan's doing that well year over year. Is it not possible to look into that? Like
Yeah.
Lower that age, maybe a year.
The problem is you
5 years.
age, everybody's benefit becomes lower, and then that 130 is no longer 130, it's now 105%, and now we're getting ourselves more and more into danger. So, right, a lot of these moves are to be able to protect both you guys and the pension plan itself, to make sure that there's money there.
So over the years, our plan has done better, right?
The last 5 years have been great years for us.
Yeah. So there's no way to look at lowering that line year ever. Like it's gonna be 60 till.
The problem is, and as much as I like to sit here and take credit for that 130%,
sure,
everybody in this room got a letter probably 6-7 years ago saying we're around 90%. And the reason for that was because interest rates were so low. So if the Fed decides tomorrow that those interest rates are dropping by 2 or 3 points, this conversation gets a lot more difficult and the pension plan becomes a lot more uneasy. Right?
So it's safe to say don't plan on that being less than 60.
Correct. I think that is the best way to make sure it's safe and money's there for it.
Does the 6.6% start at 60 or 65? The deduction.
Anything before 60.
So 58, I'll lose 12, 13%.
Yeah.
What happens if you leave at 50? Or 48?
Yeah, you won't be able to collect your pension that early.
No, but if, will it be reduced by all, like
It-
60% a year?
Only if you start receiving payments.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you stop working, you don't accrue anymore, nothing else builds up, but nothing gets taken away from you. It's only if you start collecting it, because the amount that's been calculated is at age 60. So you took it earlier and you're taking payments away from that promise at age 60.
Can I pull my pension at 60 if I don't have 35 years in?
Yep.
You made my day.
Yeah, so this is different from a government pension where you get 2% per year for 35 years service and you get 70% of your pre-retirement earnings. It's different. It's based on your total career earnings, or not earnings, excuse me, your career hours is what dictates what the pension is. So you can take it at any point, almost any point, but there's an offset to that value. It's pegged at you collected at age 60. So if you took it earlier, it would be a lesser amount than what's on paper at age 60.
The earliest you can withdraw from the 65.
But keep in mind, like I understand everybody wants to retire at age 55 and be younger, but 60 is very good. Like in trades, it's a very, very good age. It's low, relatively speaking. You're at the same level as police and fire and those that. And there's a lot of other groups that are trying to get forward to get 60. Typically 65 is what you see. Unreduced. Yeah, I mean, I think that the Braden's asking there as far as how well it's done. Again, the investment performance is a key component, but also there's other factors as far as the interest rate. So we're in a very good position despite, and those numbers that we saw at 130 include, again, the retroactive increase that everybody received on a go-forward basis, the increase that everybody's receiving for the pension, plus the retirees getting 8%. So even all of those, we still have some buffer there in case of any sort of uncertainty. And as Braden mentioned, we look at it every few years that could resolve. No promises, but again, if that is we're comfortable with the figure, and we have a sort of a heat map or however you want to describe it, we look at it and say, okay, we're in this range. We're not even going to talk about it. It's too low. It's too close to break even. We're not going to talk about it. We get into the area a little bit, we'll get a little bit more buffer. We start talking, and then once we go above a certain point, that point we start implementing the benefit enhancements. So there's always the possibility, and we hope that it would be more frequent than it has been in the past. But I think again, the trustees were. Again, they hold a lot of liability themselves, personal liability for the plan. That things go very bad, and it's a lot of people impacted by it. So they have to be very conservative in their approach to things. But if there is surpluses, then they can release that.
Okay, so you can retire at 60, no penalty.
Right.
Still increase.
You wouldn't, yeah. It's personal preference. It's state like Scott said. It's not perfect for everybody. It's not even the tape when we saw, if you took CPP at age 60 versus 65, the break even is 73. So if you live past age 73, you better to wait than take it early. But there's a lot of other factors that can go in. You don't know, like if both your parents lived to 100 years old or something, or they didn't make it to 65. There's a lot of factors that can go into making a decision to retire. But if you continue to work, you continue to accrue up until December of the year you turn 70. After that, you can't contribute anymore. Yeah.
So the handed out sheet is wrong. The retirement date.
No, that's the international pension.
This is the international pension, smaller one.
The portal for Element with your estimator, accuracy rate on that. that quite accurate, or is it?
It's not perfect. Same as actuarial assumptions. It just gives you, it's a ballpark. I wouldn't, yeah. It's just an estimate. Yeah.
I don't know much what the international pension, but why do we get it?
I believe it was started many, many years ago in the States when there wasn't a pension supervised down there. So they established something for all of the membership, just so there would be a small stipend for any retirement. And I think in 1937, when this was initiated, the $23 a month was pretty heavy investment.
Yeah. Your options are waiting 2 years, taking one stop, or you do until you're 60.
Don't necessarily have to pay. If you left the membership, you left the IPW, the pension still sits in Ellement and is ready to withdraw.
Oh, it just sit where you want to do.
That is your money, that is your money, not like the health and benefits where you have to be a member to maintain that. That pension money is your money.
You can start withdrawing it.
Yeah, you still get that penalties and everything else associated.
Yeah. Like you don't have to pay dues. Correct your money, correct. Yeah, you just can't take it.
Or 2 years of penalties.
You take lump sum before.
Yes, but it has to go into another retirement.
Yeah, so when you take the commuted value, that's important too. Your financial advisor, where you transfer to the locked-in RSP, has to sign a lock-in agreement. That it will follow the same rules of the pension plan, so you won't have access to either normal or when you be eligible to retire. So you can take it from the plan, invest it in your own account, but you can't just turn around and then cash it. You have to treat it like pension money. So when you do that, you would convert that into a sort of life income fund or a LIP, and from there you would draw payments from that. You could turn around and buy an annuity, which is essentially what you're getting from this fund, which is a guaranteed payment for life. So I don't know why you do that, but if you wanted to take it out and get withdrawals from it, you would transfer the life income fund from there. Based on perspective.
If there's no more questions, I want to remind everybody in this room, everybody in our office is here to help you for any of these questions we have. And we can help direct you guys to Ellement, and they're ready to answer any of those questions as well, guys. So it's on your drive home when you're thinking, should I ask that question? It's not the last moment to do that. Please reach out anytime anybody has a question.
Oh, sorry, and just one thing, again, our office is at the second floor, so if you go to the eiomedics.ca website, you can book a time with us, which guarantees you got a spot to either speak to either on the benefit side or pension side. You want to speak to someone, or if you're driving by and you want to pop in, during normal business hours, you're welcome.
Thank you very much, guys. Appreciate it.